Hi everybody, and welcome to my forecast for November. Once again, you know how much I love it. I'm using the Publishing Goblins Oracle dice and cards. So I'm going to start off by pulling a card that's going to be an influence for this month. Okay. Ooh, the Crone of Summer. So we're going to see how she plays a part as we go. And we have all our die here in this beautiful box. I just love this set so much. Okay. So many die. So you can see that with this set, there's so many possibilities depending on where the die land on the mat, what face comes up. So I'll make some space for the die to go where they will. Oh, come back here, you. Okay. Well, they were pretty well behaved today. They mostly stayed on the mat. We've got one that decided to take off and one that's sitting in the core. We've had other months where we've had several sitting in the core. So this is interesting. So we're going to go through our book. First thing we want to look for is the chaos die, because depending on what's happening with it, it influences the whole thing. Interesting, the chaos die comes up with the blank face, which is the unknowable. So it said we're meant to be uncertain in the face of what cannot be known. So it says read around it with care. Has something shifted or changed? So where it's showing up is right on the edge of the mat here. And that's close to history and foundation. So it's basically saying there may be things at play this month that are based on things that happened in the past that you might have suppressed. So you might go, well, I don't know why I'm having this reaction to this situation, because it's something that still isn't at the conscious level, but is, directing things in the background. Why are we drawn to certain people? Why do we have strong reactions to certain things? We don't always know because we haven't yet connected with that subconscious pattern and done that work, which is, by the way, what I specialize in, helping access those patterns, tell you what they are, and help you to work with them so they can become conscious, and more of your decision making is something of your own choice, not directed by old programming. We have so many die that have showed up in the past this time. So this looks to me like a deep dig into the past in order to move forward. So we're going to see where we go from here. Just going to look for the fate die, because sometimes that has us move things out. And our fate die is showing up where? Okay. That's actually the one that chose to leave the mat. So we don't really have to pay attention to that. It's usually the face of misfortune, the face that's up right now. And so considering that and considering it's off the mat, it's basically saying at this point, this is not about fate. This is something that you can shift and change and work with if you choose to do the work. So there's nothing in terms of that are completely inevitable, although under inevitable on the mat, we do have a couple of dice, so we're going to see how they play out. All right, so let's start from the beginning. And we will see what we're working with. So our actions die shows up under inevitable. And the die that is showing up is this little figure. So under inevitable, it's all about transformation. So basically, transformation is inevitable. And when you think about it, we can try and forestall changes that come. The universe is coming for us. It's going to put us in situations to get us to do the work our souls said we would do this lifetime. So if something is coming up for you and you avoid it, the universe will find some other way to bring it to you. So it's saying transformation's inevitable. You might as well do the work. All right. And our alchemist die today sits in the future, and the symbol looks like that. And that one is for tin. So tin is the wise person's metal, something that brings out the strength in other things when paired well. On its own is not as useful. It is very close to another die, so we're going to see how that plays out. Yes, so it seems to me to be closer to one die here than another. Both are sitting in the future. So wisdom to be derived from whatever the other dice turns out to be. But we'll go in order so we don't miss anything. So now we come to the Alleyman's die. The Alleyman's die is sitting in the past. Today it looks like that. And it's literally an alley. So it's intermediaries between our day-to-day and another world that lives within our own. So when it shows up, this is paired with other die. There's a whole bunch of die that all showed up in the same spot. It speaks to looking deeper to the natural experience within that die. If it's found between two other die, it specifically delves into the space between those two die. And it does actually fall between two other die. So we're going to see how that plays out. There's a lot of interconnectedness in today's spread. So now we want to look at the attentions die. And it shows up just on the border of the past and the present. And the word on it is neon. And it's really snugged up against another die. So it says it's an attention hog. It draws your eye, but it offers little in return other than being lovely to behold. So it glows its ambiance on dice near it. Those dice are still important, necessary even, but what you've been seeing of them in your life has been almost entirely hidden by the glaring light of the neon. So it's basically looking at, why didn't you notice this? So we're going to see what that leads to because it's butted right up against another dice. I'm just going to make sure we didn't miss out on the card. No, we did not. Our autumn die today is actually sitting near the past, but it's just tucked near the core in what's called within. And what we get is a barrel, which is the store's dice. So I'll show you what that looks like. It's a little barrel. And the store's dice, it does not tell you on its own what you must prepare for, only that things will come to an end soon, and you must be prepared for this drought. Look to the other dice in a reading to understand what it might be tied to, what winter is coming, or what you must begin gathering into your stores. And because it's so close to core, we will look at that as well. At the core of a reading, it sometimes talks about the need for storage or collection of additional goods, thoughts, feelings. It can also talk about the stores themselves, your captured and collected memories. And since we can see in this spread this time, a lot of attention is going to be sitting in the past, and it's sitting right there. It's about stored memories, the things that you want to look at that might come up and surprise you now because you weren't paying attention, or maybe you suppressed it, and now's the time for these things to come up. We've already looked at the chaos die, so we can skip past that. Okay, the elements die, we're going to see where that one is sitting today, and it is also sitting in the past, snugged up against the core. And the chaos die is wind. It looks like that. And it's saying in a reading, wind characterizes nearby dice as fleeting, coming and going or arriving suddenly and leaving almost as suddenly. So here's how I'm interpreting that. Because it's grouped with all these other die in the past, you'll have a fleeting opportunity to work on your pattern this time. Remember how I've said before that first you get a message, then you get a warning, then you get an event. So you have an opportunity here to pay attention to the message that's coming. If you ignore it, the way the universe has to show it to you next time might be stronger, might be more of a warning or an event. So it's saying don't miss this opportunity to do this work. Okay, think of it as a great way to wrap up the year, that you really tackle something that's coming up for you. You're really willing to sit with it and work with it rather than go, no, not going there. Not going to look at that. Okay, our next dice is the Fate die, and that's the one that we're going to see where it's sitting today. That was the one that said misfortune, but it's off the mat, so we don't have to look at it. It's not a big player this month. The Goblin die, which is always one of my favorites because it's just so darn cute. So the Goblin is sitting in the past, and he has a little lightning bolt hitting his head. So we're going to see how he plays out. Inspiration. So in a reading, it speaks of the outside forces coming to act before and within you. It's the spark of creation. And it says it often shares exactly what it is with the dice above it and below. And that is interesting because there is a dice above it and below. So we're going to see how that plays out. Again, it's sitting in the past. So it might be something that occurs to you and you think, wow, I shelved that. I never really thought about that again. Now it's coming up and it's important to pay attention to. It might even be somebody from your past coming forward and inspiring you. The intelligences die is the one dice sitting right in the core. Sorry, the influences die. So let me find that one for us. It's called the wobble wheel. It looks like this. So the wobble wheel at the core looks at what this wheel is, how it helps, what it lacks, and perhaps even when it might be time to put it away. In rare cases, it may speak more to how nostalgic things have been gathered and less about how these things have helped you. So it shows good intentions that are a bit off, but honestly do their best to be supportive and helpful. What I find really interesting is because of where it shows up in the core, and it talks about nostalgic things that have been gathered and less about how they've helped you, and so many of the dice are sitting in the past, it's suggesting a bit of a cleaning house where you start to look at what are the things coming up from the past? Are they helpful? Are they holding me back? How do I move forward? So oftentimes when I'm working with you directly, we'll talk about how intention works. Once you place intention, this is what I'm moving toward. This is what's important to me. Then it's really important to look at who am I spending time with? What am I thinking about? What are the things I'm doing? Are they moving me in that direction? Or are they anchoring me to the past? So that's to me what the wobble wheel along with the stores one are saying is the stuff is coming up from the past. Is it helpful to you or is it hindering you? Is it holding you back? Are you getting stuck in melancholy, nostalgia? Are you wishing and hoping and dreaming rather than doing? This is worth thinking about this month. Okay, the kindness die. I always like this dice. And the kindness die shows a bouncing ball, and it's on the other side of that alleyway that we were looking at. So it is a rubber ball, points to the necessity of play, of being open and fun, of finding the joy in things. So it's interesting, it's on one side of the alley, and it's basically saying the stuff coming up from the past, it's not heavy stuff. It can even be a source of inspiration. It's more like, this stuff that I tucked away on a shelf, it's time to pay attention to. It's time to bring it forward. It might even be time to liberate an inner child to come out and play. Your longings die. Okay. Longings shows up next to tin. And remember, tin isn't anything really without something else working with it. And so that's the longings die. And what we get here is the mask. And I'll show you what that looks like. And it's sitting in the future. So it speaks to the necessity of masking your actions, behavior, or identity. So hiding true feelings from another to avoid awkwardness. It says it does not always unlock the shadow of nearby die, but very often it may. The dice wears masks when their answers are strange and unlikely to be heard well. So what it's saying in the near future is all this deep internal work you're doing on the past might not be for others' consumption. In other words, choose your audience. If stuff is coming up and you're processing it, it doesn't mean you necessarily need to discuss it with everybody. There may be certain people that will shut you down if you say, you know, I'm having these realizations. I'm feeling inspired. I want to create something. Oh, no, you could never do that. You don't want to talk to those people about this. You want to leave them out of the equation. This is a beautiful process of opening and exploration, taking some inspiration from the past and bringing it forward. Be aware of your audience when you have these discussions. Oftentimes, we're really hoping somebody will be our cheerleader, and instead they burst our bubble. And then we lose the energy to continue on the path we were inspired to take because they didn't share that vision. So don't have those discussions with somebody who may not be your cheerleader. Okay. And next we are moving on to the Major's die. And the Major's die today also falls in the future. It looks like this. And if you're having a hard time seeing the die, watch this on my YouTube channel. It'll be easier for you to see it. I will be posting it everywhere, but it's a good place to watch. Bonita K. Hudson, if you're wondering. Hodgson. Okay. All right, so this is the heart. And it says it carries the good and the bad of love, and the waning of love that becomes indifference, the heartbreak of love caught up amidst anger, resentment, and disgust, the joy and importance of dedication, care, and patience. So it speaks to relationships and the emotions that surround them. So it has a number of ways it can be read. If it's upright with the larger heart on top, it often speaks to having more of an investment in the relationship or commitment than others. If it lands on the smaller heart on top, it speaks to the opposite. It can be read without those interpretations. It can be read as wholesome, complete circle of love. And so when I look at where it's sitting here in the future, it suggests to me I'm actually picking it up as self-love. And as we cultivate that, the ability to love others better and receive love better, because so much of this is internally focused. We will see how it plays out with the die around it, because it does sit in a triangle of die in the future. So we're going to see how that plays out. Okay, the Mariner's die is the one on the other side of the alley, and it shows up as an anchor. And so it tells the story of where the resting period for the querent is, or if they're about to begin it. So I find it very interesting that on the one side of the alley is the rubber ball saying, be playful, don't take this all so seriously. And on the other side is the anchor coming to a place of rest. And what's interesting is next to that is the little goblin who's inspired, and the anchor is right above it. So what that tells me from the past is some of these memories are either joyful or they inspire you to not take things so seriously now, move forward, create, be playful. So the stuff happening from the past, as far as I can see at this point, is positive. It's either good memories or memories that inspire you to joyfully move forward in your life. I'm kind of liking that. Okay. So we have metamorphosis, and that is under fated. So what you see here is this is the cocoon that the butterfly resides in. Or what's known as the chrysalis. And so it's basically saying it can speak to a place of refuge as well as a place of creation and growth. So here's how I read this. It is necessary, it is a part of life to sometimes go into retreat. You might even feel like you're in a tunnel, you can't see the light on the other side. Maybe that feels a little scary and lost. But ultimately, there's times we need to go within to do that internal work, to come out the other side changed and ready for our next adventure. So it's saying this is necessary. All this deep internal work this month is necessary. And it doesn't look like it's super heavy from what I've seen so far. The stuff from the past is very beneficial. So allow it to come up. You might even be discovering a very playful, light side of yourself that didn't get a whole lot of play when you were a kid, but now you can let it out. And there's nothing wrong with having a part of you that's a happy 5-year-old and is goofy and makes your friends laugh, makes your partner laugh. You're allowing up an aspect of yourself that, is very creative, is very inspiring. So let it up. Next dice. The obstacles dice. Okay. Where is this one showing up today? Oh, also showing up in the past, showing up under the inspired goblin. And it is showing up as a rose. And it means peace. So it's basically looking at the unease with resolution to a conflict. So, looking at where you can find peace within yourself. So it's interesting to me because it shows the anchor above the goblin. In other words, coming to a place of rest where you find inspiration. And when you rest deeply enough, you come to that state of peace. There's a line in the Bible, the peace that passeth all understanding. And the way I look at that is it's a state of peace you can't get to by rationalizing to it. You can only get to it by surrender. So when I look at these dice together, I see going into a meditative state, contemplating these things from the past, coming to a peaceful resolution and inspiration on how you want to carry forward. Could very well be a situation where you go, there's nothing I can do to change the past, but I have a choice about how I approach the future. I don't have to be a victim to my past. I can take what I learned from that, derive strength from it, and move forward in a creative way. If I didn't like what happened then, do I want to focus on what didn't work, or do I want to create something better? How is this fuel to inspire the building blocks for what you want to put together in your life? Don't get stuck in the past. Use it for inspiration this month. All right, the relations die. Now this one falls next to, in a triangle, with the one about heart, the one about relationships. And interestingly enough, the dice that comes up is the self dice. Remember how I said I think this one's going to be about self-love? And so it's basically saying in terms of where you are in life, these are things they're concerned with or focused on the relationship you have with yourself. So it's not necessarily about loneliness. It can be about going into, and this is in the future, those things that you want to explore. Because if we want change in our world, the world around us, it starts internally. It starts with working on ourselves. So nothing outside of us can really shift until we shift internally. We might say, I want this person to treat me this way, but then check in. What's your self-talk like? Do you treat yourself well? Because if you're really confident with yourself, if somebody mistreats you, you will probably give them a chance to change their ways, but if they don't, you'll do something right for you. You'll make a change. So sometimes we're asking of others to treat us in a way that we don't actually treat ourselves, and people can only mirror back to us the way we are in relation to ourselves. So much of this future, as you're working through the stuff from the past, is like, okay, how do I want to treat myself going forward? How do I want to relate to myself? So there's a lot of personal growth here. And again, remember the die, the tin, and the mask saying, this is not for public consumption. This is your own internal work that you're doing. So everything you're doing now is preparation for that. Okay, the spring die is the one that shows up in triangle with the heart and the aloneness die. And this dice is called whimsy. So basically what you see is a tree, and it almost looks to me like a hand throwing something up in the air, and that is what it's saying it is. Flowers fluttering over a manipulating hand. So it usually relates to the entire quarter. It's being tied to its whims. In a reading, whimsy speaks to the presence of a person, either the person who's getting the reading or someone close to them, being in a sort of wild-seeming control. When it relates to the querent themselves, it might mean they're the kind of person to take random actions, jump after the slightest interest, or just be hard to read or lock down. So when I'm seeing these three dice together, that internal relationship stuff, the aloneness with the whimsy, again, to me, it speaks to don't take this all so seriously, be playful with it, and the fleetingness of it. This is not a month to get heavily bogged down in stuff. It's much more about having something occur where you go, oh, that's bringing something up for me. Cool, I get to look at that. Oh, that's really interesting. I'm having some amazing realizations I get to carry forward, and they're kind of playful. They're fun. They're creative. That's the sense I'm getting. I'm really liking the lightness of this month's reading thus far. Okay. The suits die comes up. And that one is actually sitting here under foundation, and it's a branch. And that would be the wand. So wands speak to an ability to fine-tune our will, focus, drive, and energy, to have control of ourselves. So again, very, very internally focused this month. It's saying at the very foundation, this is you sitting with yourself, doing this deep internal work, and knowing intrinsically you have the ability to do this. So don't doubt that for a minute. It might not always be comfortable to really sit still and do that inner work, but it's saying you're capable of this. Just sit into the discomfort and see what it's going to teach you. Because this is a fleeting opportunity, don't let yourself get distracted this month and go, I know I should sit with this, but I'm just going to put it off. Because it's the kind of thing that might disappear back down to the subconscious, not to reemerge for some time. So if a realization comes, and you can, stop what you're doing, drop into it, sit with it, and say, what's this that's coming up for me right now? What is it I'm learning from this? This is an opportunity. Don't let it slip you by. Don't let it slip by. Okay, so now we have this card, the Crone of Summer, which is tied to the summer die. This is the influencer for this whole spread. And it says she brings the heat of the sun with her. She's a reminder to hang out with friends, do the things that are pleasant. Buy yourself a nice present because you deserve it. She doesn't plan much for the future, and she doesn't suggest you do either. So she's saying it's too easy to spend your life stuck in planning mode, doing things today to make tomorrow better. So her showing up just reinforces this is a fleeting opportunity. Don't get so bogged down in, well, this is what I said I was going to do and I better stick to that, that you don't show a little spontaneity to move into this situation where you have a chance to do this personal growth work. Might even be somebody showing up and saying, hey, come on this weekend retreat with us. Maybe it's somebody you haven't seen in years, but by spending time with them, memories come back, inspiration comes, and you come away from that with a new way of looking at your life going forward. Inspiration to approach something differently. So if opportunities arise, make sure you're not so stuck in your plans that you don't take advantage of that. So the summer dice itself, interestingly enough, shows up in the present, snugged up against that neon. So you can see here, we have a star. And so it's saying that up until now, it's been obscured. Remember, the neon is this light that obscures things, so you're not really seeing them. But it's moving into the present. It's saying this is now something you're going to see. It's going to be something you'll become aware of. So it speaks to the hopes we carry with us. It speaks to goals. And so it says places we want to be when we grow up, places we want to be when we retire. It's a driving force. It's a hopeful goal. So what I really like about that is it's saying all this stuff that's been going on under the surface, all this stuff from the past that's going to come up for us this month is going to lead us into the present, where as a result, we formulate a goal. It might even be a goal we shelved a long time ago. Remember, it's up against neon, which obscures things that are already there. And now we go, wow, this has not left me. This dream has not left me. I need to put some energy into this. I need to pursue this. And it might be something that people in your childhood poo-pooed and said, oh, you could never do that, or you shouldn't do that. And it's still there. It's still trying to get your attention. So it's saying this is the time that as you have that realization, it's going to formulate a goal that comes into the present. So that's exciting. I'm loving this reading for this month. The winter die shows up under inevitable, and it's an eye shedding a tear. So we will explore what that one is. Sorrow. So it's basically shows up as, loss, things passing. The way I read it in this is the first dice we had. Just want to go back to that one again, because that one was about transformation, and this one is about loss. So it's showing up under inevitable is saying invariably there will be losses. There will be transformation. Nothing in life stays the same. So accept that. Don't try to steel yourself against it. A lot of times when the universe presents us with an opportunity and it's something new, and maybe it's stepping into the unknown, maybe it's taking a risk, we go, well, I'd rather play it safe. You're going to die anyway. Live this life. I always say there's two kinds of people in the world, those who are truly alive and those who are just trying not to die. So be one of those people who's truly alive. There will be sorrow, there will be loss, there will be transformation as well. So if you want to move into that transformation and have the strength to embrace loss when it comes, live your life. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Learn what you can, grow, contribute, because then when change does occur, when loss does occur, you're not left feeling like, I missed that opportunity. I didn't really live. I played it so safe that I never really lived. You don't want to be one of those people. The wounds die also shows up just tucking itself into the present. And it is a hand. I'll show you there. And I love this. It says unmarred, because some of the other hands on that die have wounds. Unmarred usually marks someone as being innocent to pain and violence, someone who will be naive when it comes to matters of risk and chance because they've never tasted consequence. So here's how I read it. Given everything else going on here, it's saying go into this with beginner's mind. Rather than, well, that's never worked before and I don't want to take a chance now because what if it doesn't work again? Instead, just going, I'm not going to determine the future by the past. I'm going to be willing to take chances, to take risks, to do something new and see where it takes me. Again, you're either really living or you're just trying not to die. So that goal that gets set in the present, don't mar it with fears. Go into it like, I don't know where this is going to take me, but I'm going to go explore. Because then as you move into the future, remember, it's about deep internal work on self-love and playfulness. So that goal is about liberating parts of yourself to really enjoy your life and create and play. So this whole spread is really interesting because so much of it is internal work, but it's liberating parts of you that are joyful, playful, creative, helping you to come to a goal that maybe has always been there but got set on the back burner. And now it's interesting to me that the unmarred hand is sitting near the wand under foundation. Remember, the wand is saying you've got the ability to do this internal work, to sit with your stuff. So the way I read this is it's saying the goals you have, your old patterns might come up, your old programming that says you can't do that. Who do you think you are? It's saying sit, observe that pattern. Don't let it attach to the goal and going forward. Don't let it hinder that. Go in with beginner's mind. Let's see what happens. And one way of looking at it is better to try something and have something go wrong and learn from it and now go back into that goal in a different way, or it might shift you to a new goal, than to never try and never know what might have been. So go into whatever's coming up for you this month. Take that opportunity that shows up. Play, create, explore. Allow up parts of you that have never seen the light of day. They have something to teach you. They have something to offer you. But be aware of who you communicate this process to. Don't do it with people that are part of your old programming. All they're going to do is probably repeat that programming back to you and reinforce old patterns and cause you to drop this opportunity. You don't want that. So if you do discuss your process with somebody, make sure they're a cheerleader, make sure they're aligned with your belief system. Okay, so that's November. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will look forward to seeing you another time. Watch for future podcasts. This week, instead of the podcast, I am doing the forecast, and I will be back with more videos for you. Thanks, everybody, and see you next time.